So yesterday we talked about how Elon Musk was going to have a meeting at the Pentagon, and Musk and Trump called this whole thing fake news. Well, turns out we have video of the meeting. This is what they tweeted out. This is Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. So it looks like the meeting did occur. I don't know what the heck Trump and Musk were talking about, calling this all fake news. It's happening. The thing is, though, is that originally they were saying the meeting was going to be about top secret stuff and plans on a theoretical war with China. I think they pulled that stuff back, meaning that because he was called out in the media, they just kind of did a fluff thing. So my understanding is Musk went to the Pentagon, maybe like an hour to 80 minutes, something of that nature. Obviously we don't know, and they're not going to tell us exactly what they talked about, but I just want to show you the meeting did exist. They're showing it right now. Hegseth is tweeting it. This is just an hour ago. The thing is about this stuff, and I want you guys to be really concerned about this stuff, is that this is like a private citizen, however you want to call this guy, non-elected person, right? No one voted for Musk. And he's hanging out at the Pentagon, and he has a lot of conflicts of interest, as I'm sure you know, all sorts of stuff, right? The guy who says, hey, I'm going to cut certain programs, and the guy who could benefit from said cuts, that is a real problem. This was the tweet before where they were calling all that stuff fake news, but literally the meeting did occur. So, what if they talked about China or not? I'll just say this. My wife and I were talking about this. If you wanted to run a sting on Musk to figure out whether or not he's an agent, this would be the time to do it. So what you would do is you would give him a bunch of, fake info, right? So for example, you'd say, we're going to use the green base, right? For example, the green base, right? And it's all fake, and there is no green base. And then if you're monitoring, Chinese communication, and suddenly you start hearing Chinese communication or Russian communication talking about green base, you're like, oh my God, Musk really did leak the thing. The interesting thing is Musk is after people who are leaking the meeting ahead of time. I think he's pretty upset by that, but they had to go through it because it was already scheduled, and it would kind of like look bad maybe if they just canceled it. He's got massive conflict of interest with Russia. Recently, these are headlines coming out just a couple days ago. Russia wants to team up with Elon Musk. Yes, of course they do. And what is this? Why Elon Musk tried to buy missiles from Russia? And that was referring to way back when. Musk has a very, very long history with Russia. And on top of that, I guess maybe they're going to go to Mars together. Let's hope so. Please, Musk, if you want to go to Mars, be my guest. Putin envoy expects Russia to hold talks with Elon Musk on plans for Mars flight, and Russia seeks collaboration with Elon Musk on Mars. Who knows? I mean, from Russia's point of view, maybe they're like, you know what? If Musk can get into the Pentagon, and if he can do all his spy satellites, and if we're friends with Musk, gee, I wonder where the information could possibly go. So there's so much conflict of interest with Musk, be it just profiting from cuts to the government and then funnel that money to his companies, or his connections to Russia or China, which he's got heavy financial connections there. If you don't know, he's got a factory in Shanghai, and they have a lot of leverage over him. He needs that market to stay afloat. On top of that, this even gets more crazy. I wanted you guys to understand like who these Musk and Trump people are and who the kind of people that they work with. If you remember the whole deportation thing with the Venezuelans, there's 3 planes the judge ordered to stop, but the Musk Trump people just went on with it anyway, basically ignoring the judge. Well, the judge called the lawyers into court another time because they did it before. And we actually have dialogue between the judge and the Trump lawyer, which you got to hear. First, here's the headline here. Did you not understand? Judge grills DOJ over alleged gang member deportations. And the language is really strong from the judge, and also a good lesson for you guys to hear. So that's why I'm reading it for you. So it says here, it's from the judge. Can I ask you now how you interpreted that statement when we had a conversation on Saturday? So basically the judge is kind of going like, why did you ignore my order to, turn the planes around? That's basically what it boils down to. Did you not understand my statement during that hearing? And then this is the reply from the lawyer. I understood your statements and relayed your directive to the clients, which I have done. Okay. Then the judge comes back. What did you understand? Did you think that was hypothetical, not serious, that it was going to be modified? Or did you understand that when I said to do that immediately, right? So, I mean, the basic judge is like, why did you ignore my order? And this is a serious thing for any lawyer to ignore a judge's order, basically you could lose your license, get disbarred, and that's just your personal stuff. Let alone doing things illegal, damaging the country, these kind of things. Don't get tied with Trump and Musk, guys. And the lawyer's actually trying to be pretty nice, which you'll see in a moment here. It says here, I understood your intent. This is from the lawyer. I understood your intent that you meant that to be effective at the time. Okay, so why are you disobeying still? That's still the question, right? It says here, Judge Boasberg also raised concerns about the timing of Trump's proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act, suggesting it was, quote, signed in the dark to rush the deportations before someone could bring a legal challenge. And that's something I always tell you guys about, is that the way Trump and Musk do things, they do things on weekends. They, like, as the judge even using the phrase, they sign stuff in the dark, right? Sometimes Trump and Musk, they'll do communications where no one will sign their name on the bottom because no one wants to take responsibility or accountability for said things. And listen to what the judge has to say. He says, why is this proclamation essentially signed in the dark on Friday night, early Saturday morning, when people rushed on the plane, right? To me, the only reason to do that is if you know the problem and want to get them out of the country before a suit is filed, right? So the judge is even calling them out. You're doing this in the dark, right? On what is this, Friday night, early Saturday, because you know what you're doing is wrong. And guys, I want to make this really clear. I have no trouble no problem with deportating people that are dangerous to the country. I totally get that. I have no problem deportating people that might be, gang members and are serious threats. I want to make that really clear. But it doesn't mean that I want to skip due process. It doesn't mean I want to skip warrants. You still want to do things the right way, because we don't know, and that's what the whole point of the judge as well is, like, hey, I just want to have a chance to review all the cases you have. Don't just throw 300 people on the plane, because some of the people were claiming that, hey, I'm not part of said gang or whatever, right? So due process does matter. Plus, they're sending them to a place where I guess the USA is paying like $6 million to El Salvador. Some of the people might be tortured there. It's a very serious thing. So I believe in due process. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. You don't want people just coming to your house without warrants and just throwing you on planes, whatever. I mean, this is something really serious. And I just want you to understand the gravity of these things. The judge also says, they're simply saying, don't remove me, particularly to a country that's going to torture me. That's from the judge. With Ensign appearing to undermine arguments made earlier this week. So I guess he's kind of backtracking about the timing of the order and the continuing to struggle to answer Judge Boasberg's questions. The judge suggested that the DOJ might be risking its reputation and credibility with its recent conduct. So the lawyer's basically trying to dance around, essentially, right? I think usually these lawyers, they're not stupid, and they're just frankly unethical, or they could be inexperienced. I don't know this particular lawyer's situation, but listen to what the judge has to say. He says, I often tell my clerks before they go out into the world to practice law. The most valuable treasure they possess is their reputation and their credibility. I just ask you to make sure your team understands that lesson. And guys, I do this stuff every day with you. And if you don't know, I was a professor for about 10 years, and part of my job was to help young people to develop into adults, right? To do the right thing. And I've said that so many times. Do the right thing. Sometimes this is real. Sometimes the right thing, maybe you're not going to be the richest person in the world, but that's okay. You're doing the right thing, right? Sometimes people ask me, say, Chris, what's your secret to staying young? This is what it is. I'm not out to cheat people all day, every day. I'm not out to sign things in the dark, to rush stuff that like what you see with the Trump and Musk people. I'm not out to surround myself with this, all greedy people as possible. It's essentially what the Trump and Musk people are doing. I just want you to see what's going on. And even the judge is calling out. He's like, hey, when I train my clerks, right, people working with me, he's just saying, I'll read it again. He says, the most valuable treasure they possess is their reputation and their credibility. That's not just in law. That's in anything that you do. Your reputation and credibility is really, really important. Yes, it's a valuable lesson. Unfortunately, the Trump and Musk people, the kind of people that they deal with is, frankly, they're bad people. I just don't know how to say it. And the kind of people that take advantage of others. Have a listen to this. This is the Letnick guy. He's talking about what would happen if someone canceled Social Security and how his mom would react. I want you to have a listen to this.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She'd think something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster.
Can I just think about that, okay? So he claims that his mom, if his mom didn't get a Social Security check, that she wouldn't call and complain. Now, in his situation, maybe his mom is wealthy, and chances are she is, because I know he's wealthy, right? But what about you? What about just regular people? If you didn't call your check, didn't get your check that you're expecting, I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable for a person to call and say, "Hey, is there any sort of problem? What's going on? I was hoping to get that check." I wouldn't just like sit around and be like, "Oh, well, maybe they're just late," right? No, like if you need the money, you need the money. You gotta put food on your table. You gotta pay the rent, right? You gotta take care of not only you, maybe your family. So the way that this person talks, he's just completely disconnected from regular people. Oh, if my mom didn't get their Social Security, so she wouldn't care. Oh, just I guess it'll just come later, right? That's how these people are. They're so disconnected from regular. And just listen to more what he says. So he's going to make the case that the only people that would call if they missed their Social Security check would be fraudsters. That's according to Lutnick here, and that's the Commerce Secretary under Trump and Musk. Just have a listen.
Always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining. And all the guys who did PayPal, like Elon knows this by heart, right? Anybody who's been in the payment system and the process system knows the easiest way to find the fraudster is to stop payments and listen.
Yeah.
Because whoever screams is the one stealing.
Yeah.
Because my mother-in-law's not calling. I mean, come on, your mother, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds, they trust the government. They trust, okay, maybe it got screwed up, big deal. They're not going to call and scream at someone. But someone who's stealing always does. So what happens is we need to get to.
So his claim is that the only people who would call if your Social Security check didn't come would be fraudsters. His claim is the only people that would call would be the people who are stealing. It is such a ludicrous thing to say, and that's how disconnected these people are from just regular people's lives. Okay, I just wanted to make that really clear. On top of that, this also proves it as well. And all I have to do is just show you who these people are. This is Elon Musk. He's tweeting out, "It's so real." And the story is Minnesota Republicans' bill to define Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness provokes backlash. Like, what the heck is this? So it's like a trolley kind of thing. It's like and this is actually an actual bill. If you don't know, because I do YouTube every day, and sometimes people say, "Oh, Chris, you just have Elon derangement syndrome or Trump derangement syndrome," meaning that if you actually, you know what, they actually define what it is. Actually, I'll read their definition and you'll get a sense. Minnesota bill labels Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness, and this is the actual definition in the bill, I guess. The bill defines TDS as, quote, the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that is a reaction to the policies and presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. And there's a more definition of TDS. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of psychic pathology in President J. Trump's behavior. The legislation specifies that TDS can be expressed by verbal expressions of intense hostility and or overt acts of aggression and violence. Anything that symbolizes President Trump, as anything against President Trump, essentially. So I had to read their definition, but the reason why I bring this up is that that's often what the Musk and Trump supporters go. I'll see them on the channel right, and then they'll say, "Oh, Chris, you just hate her, you just hate her," right? And it's like, no, I just point out who they are. I point out where their inconsistencies are, and I point out how they don't care about you. And from the Trump Musk point of view, and this is even gets more crazy, they support these kind of people, right? So this is Musk supporting this particular Minnesota Republican, right? You can see it right there, tweet out March 22nd, 2025. Turns out the guy who introduced the bill that wanted to label, people who don't like Trump as being, mentally deranged, Trump derangement syndrome, he got arrested recently. I guess he stepped down from his position. I'll read the headline. I'll try. It's on Google. MAGA Republican resigns after being charged with soliciting. I guess I didn't say it. Well, we'll just say soliciting stuff from a minor. It has to do with paying, a woman to do said things. As it turns out, it was a part of a police sting. They were looking for people like this guy to, it's a sting. And that's the kind of people who the Trumps and Musk deal with. I want to make this really clear. And so, I don't think I'm saying anything unreasonable by, hey, I don't respect these kind of people, be it, this particular politician, this kind of stuff. And then he introduced these bills to, his house or whatever in Minnesota. That's frankly just a waste of time. And then he's caught doing this. That's who these people are. On top of that, today the other news is, Trump is dismantling the Department of Education. And I guess the way they're doing it right now, they're going to reorganize things. They're going to move student loans from the Department of Education, put that in the Small Business Association, which is kind of an interesting move. I think I kind of know where it's going though. And then they're going to move, I think it was disability services and like food services from the Department of Education to the Health and Human Services. Loeffler's in charge of the Small Business Association thing. They're firing a bunch of their people over there. When Trump mentioned the whole loan stuff, he specifically mentioned Wells Fargo. And I was like, okay, chances are they're probably going to try to privatize this thing. And I don't know if they're going to, send the loans management over to Wells Fargo specifically. I don't know. You'd have to ask Trump on that. But he did mention Wells Fargo in here. And then regarding the whole, food stuff, I'm sure they'll figure out ways to privatize that as well. That's just sort of where those things are going. And they're trying to figure out how can we profit off stuff, cut stuff, profit off stuff, send money to, religious schools, private schools, whatever. And then we're getting boycotted. The USA is getting boycotted from all around the world. This is the kind of headlines that I see. America last, why shoppers abroad are boycotting U.S. goods. I've heard other companies call for boycotts on U.S. travel. And then again, the people who call them out on their ludicrous policies, they say, "Oh, you're just a hater. You just have derangement syndrome," right? That's how these people behave. Their most biggest priority, though, these days, when we've seen it in several of their actions, is to enrich Musk. Send Musk to the Pentagon. Go get those government contracts, Musk. Then they're like, "Oh, if you say anything bad or attack Musk, we're gonna go after you with all of our FBI and put you for 20 years in prison." That kind of stuff. That's like that's their priorities, right? Their plan is to, cut Department of Education, forget about food for kids that need it, forget about public schools, send kids to private school if you can afford it. If you can't, too bad, right? And we're going to protect Musk at all costs. If you're watching this, though, just don't feel like you're alone. You're not the only one out there who can see what's going on. I'm just sharing you with you. And we also have to do this as well every day, just because there's some people that might be on the fence, that might be kind of in the middle. And I just show you what's going on. That's all I have to show you. And for me, like when I see the Letnick guy talking about, "Oh yeah, my mom wouldn't call on Social Security. She just wouldn't care." I'm just like, well, that might be your mom, but I'm pretty sure most people care. If you're missing a check, you'd be on the phone going, "What's going on? I mean, I need that money." And it's just Trump's disapproval ratings tend to be higher than his approval. It's been like that for a while. We pretty much all know who he is, and the question for this kind of stuff is like, how low will it go? Meaning that how low will his approval rating go? How high will his disapproval rating go? So right now, the last poll, approval 49, disapproval 51. Here's another one, approval 47, disapproval 52. Musk is doing some crazy crap in Wisconsin. He's getting involved in the election over there. And I guess he's paying voters $100 each or something. It says right here, Musk PAC steps deeper into Wisconsin Supreme Court election with $100 offer to voters. This is reported by Fox News, so they're not even denying this stuff is happening. And I just want you to think about this. What if Obama pulled this kind of crap? What if Obama's like, "Hey, vote a certain way, register or whatever, I will give you money." Like just imagine the scandal that would cause. But for the Trump and Musk people, that like this is just one of like many scandals that happen on a daily basis, and it's crazy. And I'm even surprised like how much stuff is like I can't even cover all of it. There's even more every day. I just try to pick out the most important stuff in the lesson of the day. And I think honestly, what the judge said about your reputation and your credibility, that's all you have, and that's the most important thing if you want to have a long and successful life, in my opinion. So I do appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next video.